Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. It is cold here and raining and snowing, and that's strange. But it is about noon when I'm recording this on a Tuesday, which means that in exactly 7 days from now, I will be finishing my PMP exam and I will know whether I have passed or failed. And I'm extremely nervous, which is unusual for me. We talked a little bit earlier the month that I typically go into tests with some sort of like cocky confidence, like I got this and I'll go take the test. And for the most part, I've always succeeded at that. But this test is different, right? I think this is the first time I've gone into one of these tests where I'm out $450 if I fail this test, right? And it is a 4-hour test, not a couple of hour test. It is almost 200 questions. And it is, though I technically have done project management for the past 14 or so years, I don't know, 12 years, something like that, 15 years. I don't know. I mean, you could argue that I've been doing project management since I was in the Marine Corps. Like I built a product or service there on my own, and I was the sole project owner, manager, whatever. So you could argue that I've done this stuff, but this test isn't really a test of your ability to manage projects. This is a test of your ability to understand the language that PMI has put forth as the project management language and understand their definitions of processes and procedures, that sort of stuff. That's the scary part, right? Because I think it's, it's an instance of when you're dealing with a 3-inch thick book on the processes and procedures of how to be a project manager, if you managed a project straight out of that book, you would spend 98% of your time doing paperwork for this book and 2% of your time actually managing the project. I don't think anybody could systematically say, as a project manager, I'm going to do 100% of this. Now, I think on huge, massive government projects, that's possible, but that's only because you have a project management office where maybe even dozens of project managers are managing that project, and they're each having, control over one aspect of it. In my case, that's never been the case. It's always been me in charge of the project and having a few helpers or whatever. So it's a really scary endeavor, and I'm nervous because I don't want to go in with that confidence. I want to go in with the knowledge of how to pass the test. I want to go in with a firm understanding of the material. And, I've been spending the entirety of last week was study. I did some work. I mean, I still have work I have to do. But for the most part, I've been retaking a project management course that is through professional development software that we have at work. So I've been retaking that. I think I will finish that course today, which gives me 7 days to take practice tests, which work generously bought for me. So I think that was like $100 expense, $120 or something like that. I can take practice exams. So I'm going to be taking a practice exam every single day and reading the source material, reading the 2 books. It's the PM Bach, the Project Management Book of Knowledge, and the Agile Practice Guide, and really just drilling through it and going through the study guides and making sure that I have a firm grasp of what's going to happen when I walk into that room. My boss, my supervisor, took the same class with me in 2020. She took the test last week and passed. So I have that pressure of like, I can't be the one that fails, right? She passed. I have to pass. So it's been tough. This isn't my normal mode of operation. I don't normally study. I don't normally test my skills this way. This is a different skill set that I haven't used in a very long time. I do study. Don't get me wrong. I study things that I enjoy studying, right? And while project management has been very enjoyable, and I actually like the process of setting up processes. I like the process of setting up expectations and schedules and communication registers and all that sort of stuff. This is a very different kind of studying, because this is really just dictionary studying. This is like learning a new language. It's not really learning how to be a project manager. I would argue that you could read the entire project management book of knowledge and come away from that with no real concept of how to manage a project. You might have some ideas about tools and techniques that you could use, but that's about it. Like it would not teach you how to manage a project. And this test is not testing your ability to manage a project. It's just a dictionary test. And that's what scares me, right? The good news is I tend to have very good short-term knowledge, short-term memory. I've told people before, if I read a book, say a tabletop role-playing game, if I read a book, I will have that book memorized for weeks. And you could ask me numbers and questions and how to resolve combat, and I would just know. It starts to fade after a few weeks, but in the beginning, I retain information really well. So hopefully, just reading the 2 books over the next week will be reinforcing all of my understanding. But there's still, this is the kind of test that has a whole lot of situational questions. Like, in this particular instance, what should the project manager do? And being a standardized test, it's going to be one of those things where all 4 answers are technically correct, but only one of them is more correct, and you got to pick that one out. So, one more week of study, and then we can see what happens. That's all I have today. I'm going to go back to studying. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends, wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know sounds smart is luminary. It is a noun meaning a person recognized and an inspirational leader in his or her field. Frederick's father is a luminary in the art of circumventing most income tax. Luminary. Luminary. This book still cracks me up. Like, it's just such a pretentious, obviously sarcastic book. At least I hope it's obviously sarcastic.